morning sun breaks over the eastern mountains, and suddenly, as if ignited by divine fire, the city blazes to life. 60,000 voices rise in perfect unison from the great temple plaza, a sound so powerful it seems to shake the very lake beneath your feet. Before you, rising 150 feet into the crystalline air, the twin pyramids of Teocalli glow white and red and blue, their stucco surfaces catching the light like jewels. Priests in elaborate feathered cloaks climb the steep steps, carrying offerings of flowers, incense, and sacred objects toward the shrines at the summit. The scent of copal resin drifts across the plaza, sweet, woody, intoxicating, mixing with the perfume of thousands of marigolds arranged in patterns so intricate they look like woven tapestries. This is Tenochtitlan on a morning in early 1519, and you're standing at the center of the most magnificent city in the Americas, a metropolis that will vanish from the earth within 3 years. Welcome to Arthur's living history. Have you ever wondered what the Aztec capital really looked like before European contact, when it stood at the absolute peak of its power and sophistication? Let me explain. Everything you think you know about Tenochtitlan is probably wrong. When Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés first glimpsed this city in November 1519, he literally couldn't believe his eyes. His letters to the Spanish king struggle to find adequate words. He compares it to Venice, to Granada, to Constantinople, and admits that none of these comparisons do justice to what he's witnessing. Bernal Díaz del Castillo, one of Cortés's soldiers, will later write that his companions wondered if they were dreaming, if what they saw could possibly be real. So let's see it through fresh eyes, before the conquest, before the smallpox, before everything changes forever. We're approaching from the south, walking along one of the great causeways that connect this island city to the mainland. The causeway stretches arrow-straight across the shallow waters of Lake Texcoco, a marvel of engineering that would impress Roman architects. It's wide enough for 8 horses to ride abreast, though there are no horses in the Americas yet, constructed from millions of stones, held together with a mortar made from volcanic rock and lime. Every few hundred yards, removable wooden bridges span gaps in the causeway, allowing canoe traffic to pass while also serving as defensive choke points if the city ever faces attack. And there, rising from the lake itself, like a vision from myth, is Tenochtitlan. First, understand the sheer audacity of what you're seeing. This city, home to somewhere between 200 and 300,000 people, sits on an island in the middle of a lake, at an altitude of 7,300 feet. The air is thin, the sunlight intense, and the Mexica people have transformed an uninhabitable swamp into the largest city in the Americas, rivaling anything in Europe or Asia. Only Constantinople and possibly Paris match its population in 1519. The city gleams. Every building, every temple, every palace is covered in white stucco, polished to mirror brightness. The effect under the high-altitude sun is almost blinding. But it's not just white. Splashes of color catch the eye everywhere. Red, blue, green, yellow. The Mexica are masters of pigment, and they've painted their city in colors so vivid they seem to pulse with life. Temples display murals of gods and heroes. Noble houses show intricate geometric patterns. Even the causeway itself has painted balustrades depicting serpents and warriors. As we get closer, the scale becomes overwhelming. The city spreads across 5 square miles of reclaimed land, organized into 4 main districts called campan, radiating from the sacred ceremonial center like petals of a flower. Streets run in perfect grid patterns, intersected by canals that serve as the city's highways. Tens of thousands of canoes glide through these waterways, carrying everything from firewood to fresh flowers, from limestone blocks to live turkeys. Here's something that'll blow your mind: those green rectangles you see floating in the lake. Those aren't natural islands, they're chinampas. Artificial gardens built by the Mexica using a technique so sophisticated it still impresses agricultural engineers today. They construct rectangular frames from woven reeds, stake them to the lakebed, then pile on layers of mud and decaying vegetation until they create fertile platforms about 30 yards long and 3 yards wide. These floating gardens, though they're actually anchored, not truly floating, produce 7 harvests per year. 7. European farmers would consider 2 harvests miraculous. The chinampas stretch as far as the eye can see, creating a patchwork of green that feeds the entire city. Corn, beans, squash, tomatoes, chili peppers, flowers for ceremonies. Everything grows here in abundance. Willow trees planted along the edges prevent erosion while their roots stabilize the structures. Channels between the chinampas allow canoes to navigate, farmers to tend crops, and fresh water to circulate. This isn't just farming, it's aquatic engineering on a scale Europe won't attempt for centuries. We're entering the city now through the southern gate, and the sensory overload is immediate. The sound of water is constant, lapping against stone embankments, dripping from aqueducts, splashing as boatmen pole their canoes through narrow canals. Voices call out in Nahuatl, the melodious language of the Mexica, which sounds nothing like the harsh Spanish soon to arrive. The language flows like music, full of the TL sound that's so characteristic: Tenochtitlan, Tlatelolco, Quetzalcoatl. The smells are incredible. Copal incense burning at countless household shrines, fresh tortillas cooking on clay griddles, the slightly fishy scent of the lake. Flowers, everywhere, flowers. The Mexica are obsessed with flowers, cultivating hundreds of varieties in elaborate gardens. Nobles wear them in their hair, priests offer them to gods, markets sell them by the thousands. The most prized, vanilla orchids, which the Mexica discovered how to cultivate and whose seed pods they used to flavor chocolate drinks. Speaking of chocolate, let's talk about what the Mexica eat, because it's revelatory. No wheat, no rice, no dairy, no beef or pork or mutton. Instead, their diet centers on the 3 sisters: corn, beans, and squash, supplemented by tomatoes, avocados, turkey, duck, fish from the lake, and countless other foods that Europeans have never encountered. Chocolate is consumed not as candy, but as a bitter drink, mixed with chili peppers and reserved primarily for nobles and warriors. Vanilla, pumpkins, peanuts, sweet potatoes, all these foods unknown in Europe are everyday staples here. We're walking now along a main street toward the ceremonial center, and the architecture demands attention. The nobles' houses, called tekpan, are extraordinary constructions. Picture a rectangular compound built around an interior courtyard, with rooms arranged for specific purposes: sleeping quarters, reception halls, kitchens, steam baths. The walls are made from volcanic stone, plastered and painted. The roofs use wooden beams supporting thatch or terracotta tiles. Windows are covered not with glass, the Mexica don't have glass, but with translucent sheets made from agave fibers or simply left as open archways. The palaces of the highest nobility are genuine mansions. Moctezuma's palace, which we're approaching now, covers several acres. It contains hundreds of rooms, multiple courtyards, administrative offices, treasuries, armories, gardens, aviaries housing exotic birds from across the empire, and a zoo with jaguars, eagles, and even a collection of deformed humans kept as curiosities. The floor plan is so complex that visitors routinely get lost. But here's what strikes me most forcefully: the cleanliness. Tenochtitlan is spotless in a way that would astonish any European. The streets are swept daily, canals are regularly dredged, public latrines line the causeways and lake shores, with the waste collected in canoes and transported to agricultural fields as fertilizer. Citizens bathe daily, in the lake or in private steam baths called temazcali. Meanwhile, in 1519, European cities are drowning in their own filth, with waste thrown into streets and bathing considered unhealthy. The Mexica have a sophisticated understanding of urban sanitation that Europe won't match until the 19th century. Fresh water flows into the city through two massive aqueducts, one from Chapultepec, one from Coyoacan, bringing clean drinking water from springs on the mainland. These aren't crude channels, but engineered structures with dual pipes, allowing one to be cleaned while the other remains operational. The pipes themselves are made from terracotta, joined so precisely that they maintain pressure across miles. We're reaching the Great Market at Tlatelolco now, in the northern district of the city, and nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for what you're about to witness. This market operates every day, but every fifth day it swells to capacity, drawing 60,000 traders and shoppers. That's not a typo. 60,000 people in one market square. The plaza is enormous, larger than any in Spain, and it's organized with bureaucratic precision that would make a German tax collector weep with joy. Each commodity has its designated section. Over here, gold and silver jewelry glitters in the sun. Nose rings, earplugs, necklaces so elaborate they cascade down to the chest. There, jade vendors display beads and carved figures, the most precious stones reserved for nobility. Cotton fabric in every color imaginable hangs from wooden frames. Cacao beans, used as currency, are measured and exchanged with ritual care. The food sections are revelatory. Live turkeys gobble in wicker cages. Ducks paddle in shallow basins. Fish from both the lake and distant oceans lie on beds of ice brought down from the mountains. Vegetables we can identify: tomatoes, squash, peppers, and dozens we can't. Varieties that will disappear forever after the conquest. Vendors sell prepared foods from clay pots, tamales stuffed with beans or turkey, tortillas slathered with chili sauce, cups of atole, a hot corn drink flavored with vanilla. The market police patrol constantly, ensuring honest weights and fair prices. Disputes are settled immediately by appointed judges who sit in a raised tribunal overlooking the market. Cheating is punished harshly, sometimes with immediate consequences. This isn't chaos. It's organized commerce operating at a scale and sophistication that rivals anything in the old world. But we need to reach the ceremonial center, the sacred heart of Tenochtitlan, before the midday ceremonies begin. We're walking now through increasingly grand neighborhoods. The houses grow larger, the decorations more elaborate. We pass ball courts where the sacred game, Tlachtli, is played, athletes striking a heavy rubber ball with their hips, trying to pass it through stone rings mounted high on the walls. Rubber. The Europeans have never seen rubber. It'll blow their minds when they encounter it. And there, ahead of us, rising above everything else in the city, the sacred precinct of Tenochtitlan. A massive wall surrounds this complex, painted with serpents and skulls, symbols of gods and cosmic power. We enter through one of 4 gates, each aligned with a cardinal direction, because the Mexica understand astronomy with precision that rivals any civilization on Earth. They've calculated the solar year to within minutes of accuracy, mapped the movements of Venus, and predicted eclipses with startling reliability. Inside the sacred precinct, 78 buildings create a stone forest of pyramids, temples, schools, and ceremonial platforms. But dominating everything is the Templo Mayor, the Great Temple. This is the structure we glimpsed from the causeway, and up close, it's even more staggering. Twin pyramids rise side by side from a massive base platform, each climbing steep staircases to shrines at the summit. The northern pyramid honors Tlaloc, god of rain and agriculture. The southern pyramid honors Huitzilopochtli, god of sun and war, the patron deity of the Mexica people. The symbolism is profound. This temple represents Coatepec, the mythical Snake Mountain where Huitzilopochtli was born. The temple itself is the axis mundi, the center of the universe, connecting the underworld below with the heavens above and the mortal realm in between. Everything about its construction reflects cosmic principles. The orientation aligns with the sunrise on the equinoxes. The proportions encode mathematical relationships the Mexica considered sacred. The building materials tell a story of empire. Stones in the foundation come from conquered cities, transported hundreds of miles as tribute. The stucco gleams white because it's mixed with seashells brought from both coasts, the Gulf and the Pacific, demonstrating the empire's vast reach. Sculptures of serpents and gods are carved from basalt, andesite, and other volcanic stones, each chosen for specific properties and symbolic meanings. Now, we need to address something that's impossible to ignore: the religious ceremonies performed here. The Mexica practice human sacrifice on a scale that shocked even hardened Spanish conquistadors. Hearts are offered to the gods. Captives from wars meet their end on sacrificial stones. This is real, this happened, and we can't sanitize it. But here's what's crucial to understand. From the Mexica perspective, this isn't cruelty, it's cosmic necessity. They believe the sun requires human blood to continue its journey across the sky. Without these offerings, the universe itself would cease to function. The fifth sun, their current age, has already witnessed 4 previous ages ending in catastrophe. Only through sacrifice can they prevent the fifth destruction. The individuals chosen for sacrifice are often warriors captured in battle, and they face their fate with ritual dignity, sometimes willingly because they believe they'll be transformed into hummingbirds or butterflies, accompanying the sun on its daily journey. That doesn't make it less tragic, but it reminds us that judging another culture's beliefs through modern eyes risks missing the internal logic that made those beliefs coherent to the people who held them. The social structure of Tenochtitlan is rigidly hierarchical, but also more fluid than European feudalism. At the top sits the Huey Tlatoani, the emperor, currently Moctezuma II, whose name means "he frowns like a lord." He's not quite absolute monarch, not quite elected leader, but something in between, chosen by a council from the royal family. Below him, a complex aristocracy of nobles, the Pipiltin, who own land, command warriors, and govern districts. Then come the Macahualtin, commoners, who make up the bulk of the population. They're organized into kalpuli, which are like neighborhood corporations, combining elements of guild, clan, and voting district. Each kalpuli has communal lands, its own temple, its own school, its own identity. Social mobility exists. A common warrior who captures enemies in battle can rise to nobility. Merchants who trade in luxury goods accumulate wealth and influence, though they must be careful not to offend hereditary nobles with ostentatious displays. At the bottom are the Tlacotin, people in a form of bondage. But this isn't chattel slavery, as Europeans will practice it. It's temporary, often voluntary, sometimes a way to pay debts or survive hardship. Children of those in bondage are born free. The system is exploitative, yes, but it's also fundamentally different from the racialized hereditary slavery that will soon be imposed by European colonizers. The sun is descending now toward the western mountains, painting Lake Texcoco in shades of gold and crimson. The city transforms in this light. The white stucco glows like fire. The lake becomes a mirror of the sky. Thousands of canoes create patterns on the water as they return from distant chinampas loaded with the day's harvest. Smoke rises from tens of thousands of hearth fires as families prepare evening meals. We're standing on the top level of Moctezuma's palace now, looking out over the entire city. From this vantage point, the geometric perfection of the urban planning becomes clear. The four great causeways divide Tenochtitlan into quadrants. The grid of streets and canals creates perfect rectangles. The sacred precinct occupies the exact center. It's city planning as sacred geometry, urban design as cosmology made manifest. In the distance, the sister city of Tlatelolco merges seamlessly with Tenochtitlan. Further out, on the lakeshore, other cities of the Triple Alliance are visible. Texcoco, renowned for its poets and philosophers. Tlacopan, smaller but strategically vital. Together, these cities command an empire stretching from the Gulf Coast to the Pacific, from the deserts of the north to the jungles of the south. Tribute flows into Tenochtitlan from hundreds of subject cities: jade, cacao, feathers, gold, cotton, rubber, exotic animals, warriors for sacrifice. But here's what Moctezuma doesn't know, standing in his palace on this evening in early 1519. Within months, ships will arrive on the eastern coast, carrying men with pale skin, metal armor, horses, and diseases against which his people have no immunity. Within 2 years, smallpox will reduce the city's population by half. Within 3 years, Tenochtitlan will fall after a brutal siege that leaves the canals choked with bodies and the white stucco stained with smoke and ruin. The Mexica will fight desperately. They'll flood the causeways, trapping Spanish cavalry. They'll use canoes to attack from the water. They'll defend every street, every canal, every building. But the combination of European military technology, devastating epidemics, and alliances with subject peoples who resent Mexica domination will prove overwhelming. The siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521 will be one of the longest, bloodiest urban battles in human history. And after the conquest, the Spanish will systematically destroy this city. They'll tear down the temples, using the stones to build Christian churches. They'll fill in many of the canals to create European-style streets. They'll burn the books. thousands of codices containing history, science, poetry, astronomy, reducing centuries of accumulated knowledge to ash. They'll build their new capital, Mexico City, literally on top of Tenochtitlan's ruins. But standing here now, in early 1519, none of that has happened yet. The temples still stand, the markets still bustle, the chinampas still produce 7 harvests per year, the aqueducts still flow, the city still believes in its own permanence, its cosmic necessity, its divine protection. That's perhaps the most profound lesson of Tenochtitlan. No civilization, no matter how sophisticated, how powerful, how seemingly permanent, is guaranteed survival. The Mexica built something extraordinary, a city of engineering marvels and artistic achievements, of complex governance and sophisticated urban planning. They solved problems that would challenge modern engineers. They created beauty that moved even their conquerors to wonder. Yet within a single generation, it was gone. Not just conquered, but erased, built over, forgotten. For centuries, European historians dismissed accounts of Tenochtitlan's magnificence as exaggeration or fantasy. Only in the 20th century, when archaeologists began excavating beneath Mexico City, did the full truth emerge. Cortés and his men weren't lying. If anything, they understated the city's grandeur. Today, fragments of Tenochtitlan survive beneath the streets of Mexico City.
Look at this, it's unbroken.
The offerings here are incredible.
The Templo Mayor has been partially excavated, revealing layer upon layer of construction, each layer containing treasures that rewrite our understanding of Mexica civilization. The chinampas still exist in Xochimilco, maintained by farmers using techniques unchanged for 700 years. The Nahuatl language still lives, spoken by over 1 million people who carry forward the linguistic legacy of the Mexica. But the city itself, the gleaming white temples, the canals thronged with canoes, the markets filled with exotic goods, the floating gardens feeding hundreds of thousands, that Tenochtitlan exists now only in scattered descriptions, in archaeological fragments, and in historical imagination. We'll never walk its streets or hear Nahuatl echoing from its plazas, or smell copal incense drifting from its temples. It's lost, irretrievably, a casualty of conquest and time, and the relentless process by which one civilization buries another. So if you enjoyed this journey to a lost world, to a city that rivaled anything in Europe or Asia, but existed in isolation, building its own path to urban sophistication and architectural magnificence, hit that subscribe button. Every week, I'm bringing these vanished civilizations back to life with the same attention to detail, the same commitment to showing you not ruins, but living, breathing cities at their moment of greatest achievement. I'm Arthur, and I want to know, what historical event should I bring to life next? Let me know in the comments.